Welcome to MysteryHQ. So, I tested every weapon in Black Ops 7 Zombies at Tier 4 Pack-A-Punch in Curse mode to find out exactly what hidden effects they get. So, I opened up a spreadsheet, checked every weapon available in Curse mode and documented all of their hidden Tier 4 upgrades. So we can finally see which weapons gets unique effects and which ones just receive a damage boost. That meant using 55 unique weapons, some with its unique attachments, but still some guns are unavailable in Curse mode. So after comparing each at regular Pack-A-Punch and Tier 4 Pack-A-Punch, I find that weapons with hidden abilities generally fall into just 5 categories. They either gain more ammo, increased fire rate, reduced recoil, unique visual or sound effects, or what appears to be increased critical damage paired with extra bullet penetration. Unfortunately, most weapons don't gain any hidden ability at all and simply receive the standard damage increase. Anyway, if you find this video interesting, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, but without any further ado, let's jump straight in. I think we should start with one very special weapon because it gains a hidden effect from almost every category we just talked about. The Siren. Tier 4 Pack-A-Punch almost turns this thing into a brand new wonder weapon. Normally, the Siren fires energy orbs that travel through zombies until they hit a wall. You can either fire them normally or charge them for a much faster shot. At regular Pack-A-Punch, it gets the standard upgrades, more damage, more ammo, which means 12 rounds in the mag with 48 in the reserve. It also starts firing those distinctive red energy orbs. But Tier 4 is where things gets interesting. The first obvious change is another ammo increase, bringing it up to 15 rounds in the mag and 60 in the reserve. Then there's the recharge mechanic. Normally, the weapon needs to recharge after every third shot. It's a quick animation, but at Tier 4 you can fire 4 shots before recharging instead of only 3. And you've probably already noticed another change. The red energy orbs are replaced by dark ether orbs, which look almost identical to the ones we saw back in Cold War Zombies. It's a really cool callback and makes the weapon look far more unique. But my favorite upgrade is the final one. After charging the weapon, the charge shot becomes absurdly fast. The projectile moves so quickly that it practically feels hit scan, cutting through zombies almost instantly. When you combine that extra damage, increased ammo, improved recharge cycle, dark ether visuals, and the insanely fast charge shot, the Siren genuinely feels like a new wonder weapon once you take it all the way to Tier 4 Pack-A-Punch. But moving on to test these hidden effects, I compared every weapon at normal Pack-A-Punch and Tier 4 Pack-A-Punch side by side, checking things like recoil, ammo capacity, fire rate increase, visual or sound effects, and damage output. Ammo increase were the easiest to spot, but surprisingly, very few weapons actually gain extra ammo at Tier 4. Besides the weapons I already covered in my previous video, the Siren was the only one, so let me go over all of them quickly again. First is the Ray Gun Mark II, which gains both a larger mag and increased reserve ammo. It goes from 42 per 201 to 63 per 378. Then there's the Blundergat, as the mag size increases from just 2 rounds to 6 rounds. Next we have the Peacekeeper Mark I, which also gets a huge upgrade, effectively doubling its magazine size again at Tier 4. So if you are using the base weapon with a 50 round mag, the weapon goes to 100 rounds after the first Pack-A-Punch, and Tier 4 pushes that all the way to 200. Next we have the X9 Maverick, which gains an ammo upgrade as well, but only when you are using the Javelin kit. Instead of needing to reload after every shot, it can now hold 2 harpoons before reloading. Unfortunately, the standard weapon doesn't gain any hidden effects, but I will explain my testing process for that just in a moment. Also, the augments you are seeing on the screen right now helps you to regain ammo while killing zombies, and it's quite useful for all the bullet weapons in the game. Next we have the MP40, which also receives increased reserve ammo, just quite unfortunate it's a box only legacy weapon and it's quite hard to get. Then there's the Jaeger pistol, which gets a larger magazine size. Although it's not really getting a larger magazine size, it's most likely undoing the magazine penalty the weapon receives when you pack-a-punch it in the first place. I still think the magazine penalty is very dumb, but at least you get more ammo when you reach tier 4. And finally, there's the arc launcher, which gets double the ammo capacity at tier 4. Unfortunately, even with that upgrade, it's still the worst weapon in the game. Next, let's take a look at the fire rate category. A few weapons ended up here, although some of them are a bit of a stretch. For example, the arc launcher with the assault frame kit gets reduced overheating at tier 4, allowing it to fire more often. The same applies to the dual wield Akita, which also overheats less, effectively increasing its sustained fire rate. So I put both of them here. Next we have the M10 Breacher, which also fits here because its recharge time is reduced at tier 4, letting you fire more quickly. I also noticed something very interesting with this weapon. At tier 4 when I pulled the trigger, sometimes I shot 2 shots instead of only 1. I mean, this happened to me at Pack-A-Punch tier 1 as well, but it happened more often at tier 4, so this might be also a little fire rate increase thing going on here. Then let's take a look at the Echo 12. Normally it has to perform a quick recharge animation after every 4 shots, but at tier 4 that only happens after every 8 shots, which is a pretty nice improvement. And of course I already talked about the Siren, which goes from recharging every 3 shots to every 4. So yes, several shotguns and some special weapons receive smaller upgrades that improve how frequently can they fire. And some weapons felt much faster during gameplay. For example, the Razor 9mm with Wildfire, I felt like it gained even more fire rate, which would have been insane, but once I compared the footage side by side, most weapons including the Razor 9 were shooting at exactly the same fire rate as before. In fact, out of all weapons I tested, only 3 showed a clear and measurable fire rate increase. These weapons are the Ray Gun, which becomes an absolute monster when paired with Double Tap's Double Time Augment, the XR3 Ion, which feels almost fully automatic at tier 4 despite it technically still firing at bursts, and the MK78 LMG, although there's a small fire rate increase so you barely notice it in actual gameplay. So overall, after all the testing, the fire rate category ended up being a lot less exciting than I expected. But even that was more exciting than the reduced recoil category. Sticking with the MK78, it does gain reduced recoil at tier 4 compared to its lower Pack-A-Punch levels. But after all my testing, I find only 2 other weapons that receive a recoil reduction upgrade at tier 4, and the testing method was pretty straightforward as well. I emptied a full magazine without controlling the recoil, then compared the recoil pattern to the tier 4 version to see if there's any noticeable difference. So like I said, after all this comparing stuff, I only found 2 other weapons besides the MK78. One of them is the Nova line, which gains 0 recoil at tier 4, and this is actually a pretty significant improvement and makes the weapon much easier to use and one of the meta weapons in the game. The second is the Shadow SK Sniper. I was really hoping the shotgun conversion kit would get some special ability as well at tier 4, but unfortunately it doesn't. I do also want to mention the AK-27 because it gains perfect recoil control as well. Just the problem is it's not a tier 4 exclusive upgrade. It happens at every Pack-A-Punch level, so for the purpose of this video, I classified it as having no hidden tier 4 effect. Although the standard AK-27 does not appear to gain any hidden effect, the Battle Scar conversion definitely feels like it does. This brings us to the next category, increased critical damage and bullet penetration. And this is the only category I would say treated with a grain of salt. Since every weapon gains a damage increase at tier 4 and we don't have a floating damage number system in Curse mode, it's incredibly difficult to prove whether some of these weapons are receiving a true headshot multiplier or simply benefiting from the base damage increase. My main indicator was how many zombies a weapon could kill with a single shot, so yes, the AK-27 with the Battle Scar kit is one of those weapons that ended up here. There are 2 other assault rifles that ended up here, and one of them is the MXR-17, and I'm the most confident about this pick. It feels absurdly strong at tier 4 and seems to gain a significant boost to headshot damage. The Voyak KT3 is the other one, which also returns from my previous video, And just like I said then, it feels like it puts out abnormally high damage compared to other tier 4 weapons, so it might get a secret damage increase too. The same goes for the VST. At first it doesn't seem like to me there's anything going on here, but after replaying and replaying and replaying the clip more, think the VST gains some extra headshot damage bonus as well. The other SMG that gains such bonus is the RK9, which can shred zombies if you shoot them in the head at Pack-A-Punch Tier 4. Now moving on to the SG-12 is the only shotgun on this list, and I don't think it gets a headshot multiplier, but it definitely feels like it gets a penetration damage bonus. Just like the Voyak, it receives such a massive damage, I think there's some secret damage bonus going on here, because the damage output at Tier 4 is not normal. The remaining weapons that seems to gain additional critical or penetration damage are the Warden Marksman Rifle, the Velox Pistol, and the Strider Sniper. And then there are two other weapons that I could not put anywhere else, so I put them here. The Necrofluid Gauntlet from Ashes of the Damned, which is the Wonder Weapon, and this receives a huge boost to its explosion damage at Tier 4. Someone commented on my video it gains 400% explosion damage, but I can definitely say it feels very much so it gets an explosion damage multiplier, because I could easily complete the hard mode Tarkov challenge against Valterion without using the vehicle using this weapon. And finally, the LGM-1 Wonder Weapon from Astra Malorum gains additional armor damage, making it significantly better against armored enemies, Oscar and Caltheris as well. And finally, the last category I was able to find, weapons that gain unique visual or sound effects. This is a pretty small category and mostly consists of explosive weapons along with the 1911, better known as Mustang and Sully, the Havoc Grenade Launcher, the Ravager Crossbow, and the 1911 all gain a distinctive purple explosion effect at Tier 4, along with a rather noticeable and very annoying sound effect every time they detonate. That sounds like this. In my previous video, I mentioned that it's exclusive to the 1911, but after testing everything, it turns out most explosive weapons share the same visual upgrade and sound effect. There also seems to be a slight increase to their explosion radius, although that's also very hard to test and maybe I'm just hallucinating things at this point, but the damage numbers would really help. And again, I have to mention the Siren, because we are talking about visual upgrades, and the Dark Eater Orbs are easily the coolest visual effect added by any Tier 4 Pack-A-Punch upgrade. And that leaves us with the weapons that don't appear to have any hidden Tier 4 ability. Like I mentioned earlier, I tested every weapon against its lower Pack-A-Punch versions, checked the recoil, fire rate, ammo capacity, visuals, sound effects, and spent plenty of time killing zombies with each one. The only thing I can't fully verify is exactly when some of these weapons start falling off in damage, especially since the health cap in Tier 3 Cursed seems to be somewhere between around 85 and around 100, so it's increased. But I also tested melee weapons using the Samantha's Drawing Relic, since that's currently the only way to access anything other than the knife in Curse mode. Well, sort of. Turns out only the Flatline is actually available, and Treyarch never added other melee weapons to Cursed in the first place. Unfortunately, neither the knife or the Flatline gain any hidden effects. But the biggest disappointment for me was actually the Jotun Star. In my previous video, I already confirmed that the Thundercat is the only Wonder Weapon without any Tier 4 ability. Back then I said the Jotun Star needed more testing because surely there's something, like there must be something, right? I got comments saying it gains extra charges at Tier 4, but after testing, that's simply not true. It still has only 2 charges regardless of how many times you Pack-A-Punch it. So yes, that's pretty disappointing. If Treyarch puts this much effort into the Siren, I really hope the Wonder Weapon, the next one on Kowakujo later this month, gets an actual Tier 4 ability too. Still, looking at the final spreadsheet, the results are better than I expected. Out of 55 unique weapons, 30 have some kind of hidden Tier 4 effect. Even if some of them are very small, that's still more than half of the weapons in the game. You can find the full spreadsheet in the description, along with a downloadable version if you want to take a closer look yourself. And if you think I missed a hidden ability anywhere, for any weapon or I overlooked something, definitely let me know in the comments. I'm not going to waste your time showing footage of all 27 remaining weapons that don't have any hidden effect. Everything is documented in my spreadsheet. I was really hoping to find even more secrets, even more cool secrets, like I can just praise the siren how cool that weapon is. But having more than half of the weapons gain some kind of bonus, it's still a pretty respectable number. And that's pretty much it for this video. I really hope you find this interesting, and if you learned quite a few new things, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.